Swami Brahmananda collected questions, and there will be a session of questions and answers. So I think he is ready to start. Om.
Om Swamiji. Can one become self-realized through any path of yoga or only through Jnana Yoga?
So self-realized means the realization of our innermost essential nature, what we truly are. Also the realization of the innermost essential nature of everything else, not just ourselves. So in Vedanta, when we use the word self, we say the self is Brahman. The self is the underlying absolute reality that permeates all existence but also transcends all existence. And it is said that many things are said, but essentially it is said that that reality which underlies the phenomenal world alone is true. So the idea is that the world has one layer which is relative, it's illusory, and it's of the nature of appearance, like the appearance of dream. In the dream we also experience the world, but when we wake up we know that everything that we experienced was not different from the mind of the dreamer. The tigers were not real tigers. The food was not real food. The people were not real people. They were all a display or a manifestation of the mind of the dreamer. Similarly, in the wakeful state, we say there is an underlying reality that permeates all phenomenal existence, and it's the substratum of all phenomenal existence, and also transcends it, and its main nature is pure consciousness. Essentially, it is pure consciousness, all-pervading pure consciousness. And that nature is absolute. Absolute means, truly speaking, it alone is. Everything else is just an appearance. Like in the dream, the mind is, everything else is an appearance. And that's infinite reality, absolute reality, dwells within us in the form of existence, in the form of consciousness or pure consciousness. So that self within us is identical with the infinite absolute reality, which we call Brahman. But there is an appearance which veils our true self, and more than it, there is a veil of ignorance which does not allow us to know our true nature. So yogis say that there are many important things in the life of a human being, but the most important thing is to realize the self, that self that I just spoke about. And in fact, if we do not realize the self, whatever we know is considered to be ignorance. And if we do not realize the self, our happiness will just be momentary, temporary, ephemeral, changing, and it will turn into suffering. But if we do realize the self, the good point is that the nature of the self is bliss. Bliss is not happiness, because happiness is something that is changing, that passes away, that is ephemeral. Bliss is not so. The nature of bliss is felicity, but absolute, not relative. And the good thing is that the self is our innermost reality. It's the closest thing to us. So in a sense, it shouldn't be too difficult to access it, because after all, it is us, it is what we truly are. Nevertheless, it is difficult to access it because of illusion and because of a veil of ignorance that covers it. So the different systems of yoga have many purposes, but generally speaking, their main purpose is the realization of the self. And when we talk about yogas, fundamentally we speak about 4 yogas. Karma yoga, the yoga of selfless activity. Bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion. Raja yoga, the yoga of meditation. Jnana yoga, the yoga of knowledge. Four types of yoga. If we take these 4 yogas, we can divide them further into 2 parts. One is called the path of action, and the other is called the path of knowledge. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is teaching Arjuna, and he tells him that since the beginning of creation, in this world there are 2 paths that lead to moksha, that lead to spiritual liberation. One is called the path of action, and that path is for ignorant people like us. And the second part is called the path of knowledge, and that path is for people that are not anymore ignorant. So Lord Krishna speaks about these 2 paths. And then the question comes, which yogas come under the category of the path of action, and which yogas will come under the category of the path of knowledge? So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is quite clear about it, because in the Bhagavad Gita, fundamentally speaking, the Bhagavad Gita is divided in such a way that it covers 3 yogas. Karma yoga, the yoga of action. Bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion. Jnana yoga, the yoga of knowledge. But within the chapters of the yoga of action, karma yoga, the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, deals with the subject of meditation. So it is somehow related to Raja Yoga, to the yoga of meditation. So Swami Shivananda would say like this. He would say that there are 3 fundamental impurities that veil our knowledge of the self. One impurity is called mala. Swami Shivananda called it the impurity of the heart, or our selfish nature, selfishness. Vikshepa. Vikshepa means the outgoing and the turbulent nature of our mind. It is also an impurity. Then he said that our mind is scattered and unsteady, which is another obstacle. And lastly, he said there is an impurity which is called avarana, and this is the veil of ignorance that covers our true self. Swami Shivananda says that in order to realize the self, we need to purify these 3 impurities. Mala, the impurity of the heart, needs to be purified by practicing karma yoga, the yoga of action. Vikshepa, the impurity of the mind that comes in the form of the outgoing nature of the mind, in the form of the turbulence of the mind, and also it comes in the form of the many illusions and imaginations that our mind projects, such that what we see is different from what truly is. So this Vikshepa, says Swami Shivananda, can be purified by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. Then he said that the nature of the mind, the nature of the ordinary mind, which is scattered and unsteady, can become steady by the practice of Raja Yoga. He would say, through the practice of Raja Yoga, the mind becomes steady and one-pointed. And lastly, he would say that Avarana Shakti is removed. Avarana Shakti means the veil of illusion or the veil of ignorance that covers our true self is removed by the practice of Jnana Yoga or the yoga of knowledge. Now, putting all of this together, Swami Shivananda created a sequence of practice. He would say, Karma Yoga leads to Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga leads to Raja Yoga, Raja Yoga leads to Jnana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga leads to moksha or spiritual liberation. This is the sequence that Swami Shivananda gave. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna relates to the same yogas, but as I say, he divides them, generally speaking, into two parts that he says exist since the beginning of creation. The path of action, for those that are still ignorant, and the path of knowledge, for those that are men and women of knowledge. He tells Arjuna, curiously, that he is not ready for the path of knowledge. He is not eligible for that path. He tells Arjuna that for him, the appropriate yoga is the yoga of action. Arjuna is not very content or satisfied because Lord Krishna says that the yoga of knowledge is the direct path to spiritual liberation, while the yoga of action, it's an indirect path. Arjuna is not very happy about it, and he asks Lord Krishna, how come that you are suggesting to me, your devotee, best friend, a lesser yoga, and a yoga with many risks? For example, he is a kshatriya, he has to fight in a righteous war. There are so many potential problems in such a war or in such a fight, and because it's his duty to fight, this will also be the external form of his karma yoga. So Arjuna initially is not very happy about this situation where Lord Krishna tells him, for you, the appropriate path is the path of action. But then Lord Krishna explains that the path of action is also a path to moksha. It is also a path to spiritual liberation, but an indirect one, not a direct one. In what sense an indirect one? It leads to spiritual liberation indirectly through the purification of the mind, through the purification of the heart. He says when the mind is purified, when the heart is purified, then the person becomes eligible for the yoga of knowledge, which is the direct path to spiritual liberation. So I believe that I have answered this question, right? It was an intricate question. I used few words in Sanskrit like karma yoga, the yoga of action, bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, and Raja Yoga, the yoga of meditation, Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. I also used words like Mala, the impurity of the heart, Vikshepa, the impurity of the mind, Avarana, the veil of ignorance or the veil of illusion, and so on. But overall, I think the question was answered.
Om Swamiji, how to be detached and learn to discriminate in our daily life, such as work and relationships?
How to be detached in worldly life. when we operate in the world, and when we have relationships. So, Swami Shivananda gave a method. He called it detach, attach. It's not enough to detach. You need to, because normally speaking, again we learn in the Bhagavad Gita how we become attached to objects. We become attached to objects by thinking about them. This is the main reason. If you think enough about objects, they become desirable because we believe that some inherent happiness is in objects. We believe that the origin of our happiness is within the objects. So we become attracted to the objects and we become attached to the objects. But what Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna is that by thinking about the objects, we become attached to the objects. So now let's think about life in the world. If you think constantly about the world, you'll become attached to the world. But since the nature of the world, as we know, is ephemeral, everything that we become attached to is going to be lost sooner or later. Things are changing and things are passing away. Practically speaking, nothing in this world is permanent. Everything is impermanent. Therefore, it's risky to become attached to objects of this world, because when they disappear, when they change, when they pass away, they will cause pain, as you can understand. This is our experience. So, attachment to the objects of the world is a painful thing. It will generate pain. It has generated pain for lives and lives and lives, because attachment also generates desire. The desire is the motive power behind reincarnation. So we reincarnate due to unfulfilled desires, and then we come back to this type of life, and we have desires which are unfulfilled. We try to fulfill them. They will not be fulfilled. Some desires will, most of them won't. And we form new attachments because we again think about the objects. We have a new opportunity. Now, you may say, yes, but if you suffer enough, you get detachment. The answer is no. Because desire has two forms. One is called the raga, attraction to pleasurable objects, objects that we consider to be pleasurable, and dvesha, repulsion from objects that bring pain, right? So pain also eventually creates a powerful desire. What is the powerful desire? To disconnect from objects that generate pain. This attraction to the pleasurable and repulsion from the painful is the root cause of the process of reincarnation. And it's like a vicious cycle, because we are born again, new attachments are formed, more suffering, and more suffering, and more suffering, and more suffering. Adi Shankaracharya describes it as samsara full of pain. This is how he describes it. Samsara full of pain. Even what seems to be not painful, it's also painful. So, if we are in the world and we would like to operate within the world without creating attachments, the only good advice is don't think about the objects of the world. There's no other good advice. But it's not a simple thing not to think about, because you know the story about don't think about the monkeys. It's a famous story. If you tell a person don't think about the monkeys, he or she will constantly think about the monkeys. If we give the instruction, don't think about the object of the world, surely we will constantly think about the objects of the world. So Swami Shivananda gives a remedy. He calls it detach, attach. Detach yourself from the world and attach yourself or attach the mind to the lotus feet of the Lord, or think constantly about the self or the innermost reality. Either way, either you think about God or you think about the self. You can also, Swami Shivananda would say that there is another method, and this is a difficult method, a little bit frightening. He says, if you cannot think about God or the self, think about death. So you can either think about death, because then you're going to utilize the life properly, or think about God, or think about the self. I think for beginners, it's easier to think about God than to think about death. Thinking about that is a little difficult. But it's not difficult to be non-attached to death. Most of the people will find it not so difficult. And so, remembering the teachings of Swami Shivananda, fundamentally what he said is, detach from the world and attach yourself to the lotus feet of the Lord. Think about God. Or think about the self. Don't think about the objects. This will bring pain. But how can we go in life not thinking about the object? Doesn't seem to be possible. Then he says, superimpose God upon the objects in your mind, or superimpose the self upon the objects in your mind, in the sense that when we practice karma yoga, there are bhavas. Bhavas means inner attitudes. So when we see a person that we serve, we superimpose, let's say, our chosen deity upon the person, let's say Lord Krishna. So when we serve the person, we think, I am serving Lord Krishna. Or we superimpose the self upon the person, thinking, this is my own self, like this. This is called Atma Bhava. The other one is called Deva Bhava. Swami Shivananda says, if you cannot do this, at least offer the fruits of your actions to God. At least. Means do not desire the fruits of the actions, because this is going to bind you to the world. You remember, what are the fruits? Usually the fruits are regarded to be objects. And if we think about the objects, we become attached to them. If we become attached to them, the process of reincarnation and suffering will just continue. So Swami Shivananda taught detach and attach. By the way, there are many, many methods of developing non-attachment, but this is a good one. Then relationships. Relationships. In the practice of Bhakti Yoga, we have 5 bhavas. 5 bhavas means 5 devotional attitudes. So we have the Dasya Bhava, the attitude of a servant, which is the relationship that Lord Hanuman had with Lord Rama. He felt that he is the servant of the Lord. Then there is Sakya Bhava. Sakya Bhava means the relationship of being a friend. This is like the relationship between Arjuna and Lord Krishna. Arjuna considered himself to be the friend of Lord Krishna. That relationship was there. Then there was the relationship between Mother Yashoda and baby Krishna, which is called Vatsalya Bhava. The relationship between parent and child. This can also be there. Then there is a relationship which is called Mathurya Bhava. That's the relationship between Lord Krishna and the gopis. It is a relationship between lovers. Then there is a bhava which is special for jnanis, for men and women of knowledge called Shanta Bhava. This type of bhava Bhishma had. Bhishma was a Brahmagyani, he was a man of knowledge, and he had that bhava is a bhava which encompasses everything. It's all embracing, called Shanta Bhava. So, even when we practice karma yoga, talking about relationships, we can apply these bhavas. The point is that if we do not apply these higher bhavas when we deal with relationships, we may regard our fellow beings as objects. We may regard our fellow beings as objects from where we can derive happiness. If we do it, then by thinking about objects, attachment is created, desires are created. This will bring reincarnation, this will bring pain. This is not the best way to go about it. So all of these things can be utilized. Now, there are people who do not believe in God. But even if you don't believe in God, you can clearly believe in your own self. The self is there. The inner sense of I exist is there. So therefore, meditation on the self is possible even for those people that do not believe in God. Because then what men and women of knowledge would say is, you do not believe in a God, but you cannot deny your own existence. You will accept that you do exist. So that sense of I exist is there. And that experience of I exist relates to the innermost reality or the self. Nobody can deny consciousness also. Why? Because consciousness relates to a knower. So let's assume that I deny consciousness. Let's assume that I say consciousness does not exist. How do I know that it is so? If consciousness does not exist, it requires someone to know it. If it requires someone to know it, that someone is of the nature of consciousness, isn't it? So even in order to deny consciousness, consciousness is required. Therefore, it's impossible to escape consciousness. Similarly, you may say, I do not exist. But then the question will come, how do you know? Like, who knows that you do not exist? Well, you know. There is a knower there. A knower implies consciousness. So you see, consciousness is self-evident. Existence of the self is self-evident. Even if you do not believe in God, you can meditate on the self. This is the general idea. And in yoga, there are many, many, many methods of meditation that are given to suit different tastes. The analogy is that one pair of clothes is not going to fit all people, and one method of meditation is not going to fit everyone. So according to the capacity and tendency of different people, different methods of meditation were given. So therefore, there is a method of yoga for everyone. Whether you believe in God or you do not believe in God, whether you believe in self or you don't believe in self, there is a method for you, waiting. So, if you do not know how to do it, how to detach and attach, means detach yourself from the objects of the world and attach yourself to the lotus feet of the Lord. If you don't know how to do it, what you need to do is to approach Swami Brahmananda or Swami Vishnudevananda, one of the Swamis, because that's what they do. They are teachers, and if you have any doubt in this regard, they will teach you. You can ask them how to do it practically. So there are so many methods of yoga that it becomes possible to detach ourselves from the objects of the world and to attach ourselves to the lotus feet of the Lord. It's very practical. So again, I think that I answered this question. And these questions are quite extensive, wide. Now Swami Brahmananda will ask the next question.
Swamiji, how to apply bare insult, bare injury in our daily life?
Again, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that there are 3 gates that lead to hell. What does it mean? What does it actually mean? Whether it's literary or figuratively, whatever it means, it doesn't sound good. Right? Because whether it's symbolic or not symbolic, when someone tells you this is a gate that leads to hell, you don't want to enter there. So, Jnana Chaitanya, what are the 3 gates that lead to hell according to the Bhagavad Gita? Jnana Chaitanya will tell you.
Lust, anger, and greed.
Lust, anger, and?
Greed.
And?
Greed. Greed.
Greed. Yeah. Don't go there. Stay away from those gates. Now see, what was the question?
How to practice bare insult, bare injury in daily life.
You see? Now see, to understand this, there are many ways to understand this instruction. One way is by understanding the law of karma. Now, let's say that you hurt me in speech, with physical action, or in another manner. According to the law of karma, the reason that you hurt me is because in one of my past lives, I have done something, and that the result of that action is that someone comes now and hurts me. Now, there are many things that we say about the law of karma, but there is a similarity of nature between the action and its result. For example, if you sow apples, you're not going to get tomatoes, you'll get apples. So if you sow anger, you're going to get anger. If you sow hatred, you're going to get hatred, like this. If you sow violence, you're going to get violence. So now, someone insults us. We know, sometime in the past, I was busy insulting other people. Now, the fruit of this action is coming back to me in the form of a person comes and insults me. Now I experience the fruit of my own action. Okay? And I have injured people in the past. Now some people come and injure me. If I understand the law of karma, this is not another person coming and injuring me. This is the results of my own actions that are coming back to me and I'm experiencing them. This is the right understanding. Now, if you come and punch me in the nose, what should be my response? Should I take now my fist and punch myself once more in the nose? Is this the right response? What would you say? You have punched me in the nose. Then you say, what am I doing? I'm punching myself in the nose. Makes no sense. So, the cause of this fruit that I experienced was that I have injured another person. Therefore, right now I suffer injury. Someone injures me or someone insults me. Then how do I respond? I'm repeating the same action that brought about this experience, right? Because I have injured someone in the past, I experience injury in the present. Because I've insulted someone in the past, I'm experiencing insult in the present. So someone insults me, what am I doing? I am creating again the same cause that brought this experience. Now again I am insulting you. What can I hope out of it? In some future, people are going to come and insult me. This is how it happened before. Or someone injures me, what do? I injure them. What will be the result of it? Someone is going to injure me. Does it make any sense? So a person punches me, now I punch myself. Makes no sense at all. Can you see this point? This is counterintuitive, but this is how it is. Bear insult, bear injury is the most logical instruction that you can think about. Don't generate again those causes that brought you suffering in the present. You like injury? No. Then don't injure others. You like to be insulted? No. Don't insult others. You like to be lied? No. Don't lie to others. Like this. You like to be fed? Yes. Feed others. You want to be rich? Yes. Give in charity. Because the cause of wealth is charity. Giving is the cause of receiving. This is how it works. That's the law of karma. You give, what will be the karmic results? You are going to receive. And it goes on and on and on. So even from a simple point of view, it's easy to understand this. Bear insult, bear injury is the highest yoga because it requires deep understanding. It's not about other people that are bad people coming to injure me. It's my own doing, and I can stop it here and now. So this is a simple way to explain this instruction. There are deeper ways, but today I just limit myself to the simple way. Okay.
Om Swamiji. Swami Shivananda often warns against the development of spiritual ego. What are the marks of a spiritual ego and how to avoid it?
I am the humblest Swami in this ashram. This is one mark of spiritual ego, right? I'm the most compassionate Swami in this ashram. I'm the best practitioner of bear insult, bear injury. See how great am I? Like this. It's a sense of ego elation due to spiritual achievements. This is what it is. And it's like a balloon, you know? It is inflated, it grows and grows. Then you know what happens. It bursts. So you have pride and you have spiritual pride. Spiritual pride is the worst type of pride. We have ego, we have spiritual ego, the worst type of ego. It's like this. And then under pride comes the pride of learning, you know, so many. Or the pride of being humble. Sounds counterintuitive, isn't it? The pride of being humble, like this. Many, many stories about it. Many stories. I don't have time to tell them right now. Ego is ego, but when we attach spiritual practice to ego, the result is not too good. You can understand this. Next.
Om Swamiji. How to nurture faith?
How to nourish.
Yeah, to develop.
Your faith.
Yeah.
My faith, your faith. Faith has to do with trust. But there are two types of trust. There is trust which is based on experience, and there is trust which is based on no visible experience. So that if you speak about trust, why do we trust? Because we have a previous experience that gives us the confidence and the trust. So why do I trust a person? I have some previous experience with this person that gives me the trust. But sometimes that experience is not visible. When that experience is not visible, this is not just trust, it becomes faith. So what we say in yoga, again, we go back to the law of karma, but it's very true. Sometimes I will have faith in a person with no visible reasons. If you ask me, why do I have faith in this person? I will answer, I don't know, but I do have faith. But if you are asking for the reasons, one easy way to explain it is, according to the law of karma, something in the past. In the past, this person gave me reasons to trust him. That faithfulness of that person was an action. But you see, a person can be faithful, but I may be suspicious. But a person may be faithful and I may trust. So trusting is an action. Then the result of this action sometime in the future is what we call faith. So for example, in our own tradition we say, faith in the Guru. But why do you have faith in the Guru? There must be some previous event, action, encounter, which is responsible for the present faith in the Guru. Swami Vishnudevananda was telling us, I have been with you in many, many, many lives. It's not the first time. So, why do you have faith in a person? Because of past experience, not necessarily in this life. Why do you have faith, let's say, in the scriptures? Shraddha, faith in the teacher, faith in the scriptures, in the teaching. Because we have done some practices in the past. Practices bring about experience. Experience brings about knowledge, brings about memory. And then the result in this life will be faith. For example, it takes so many years to practice yoga. In Adi Shankaracharya's sub-commentary, he wrote a sub-commentary on the Bhashya of the Yoga Sutras. And at the very beginning he said that no normal person will go into yoga because it takes so many years, so much exertion, so much effort. Why would a person will go into yoga unless the person has some good reasons? But what good reasons can be there in the beginning? We didn't practice yet. Still we have faith. I met Swami Vishnudevananda. I recognized him as my guru. But I did not meet him previously in this life. Why did I have faith in him? So there must be some practices done in the past. There must be encounter in the past which provides experience. Based on this experience, I get the fruit in this life, which I call faith. Faith means I trust it, but the reasons for the trust are not visible. If you ask me why, I would say, I don't know, but I trust. It goes like this. Then people have faith in God. I would say that the reason why people, now there is blind belief, it's one thing, but there is actual faith. I would say that people have faith in God based on practices that they have done in the past, like meditation. If I have meditated in the past on God for years and years or for lives, in one life, I'll have faith in God due to familiarity. There's a familiarity there. So the word faith relates to people. The word faith relates to teacher. The word faith relates to God. The word faith relates to scripture. What can be the basis of it? Only some learning that has been that went in the past, knowledge of the teacher, practices that were done in the past, and so on. Then in the present, I experience it as faith. Sometimes something is happening in the present which induces in me trust, not faith. Why I do not equate trust with faith? Because trust can be explained. I trust this person because. I trust these scriptures because. I trust, if you ask me, why do you trust these practices? Well, I tried them. They do work. So I trust them. But faith is not like this. In faith you don't see visible reasons. But there must be reasons. You cannot have an effect if you do not have a cause. You must have a cause. So this is an easy explanation. Again, there are deeper explanations, but I'm not going to go into them. I think now it's the last question. I believe so. Isn't it?
I'm the one to decide?
No, I ask if this is the last question.
It's your decision, Swamiji.
It is the last question.
Om Swamiji. What is the relationship between a guru and disciple? Are there different phases in it? And if yes, why and what are they?
What? Can you repeat?
What is the relationship between a guru and disciple? Are there different phases in it? If yes, why and what are they?
This is a difficult question. It truly relates to a great degree to the question about faith. Why first of all, a guru is a teacher, your spiritual preceptor. But there are many good teachers, but your main guru will be one. So the question is, why among so many teachers at the end you decide that this is my guru, this person has the capacity to guide me from beginning to end, up to self-realization. Why is it so? So I discussed it before when I said faith is based on past experience, not necessarily past experience that we remember. But there is another explanation which I like, that was given by the great Ramana Maharshi. He said that there comes a point in the life of a person that the person has mumukshutvam, he has a burning desire for spiritual liberation. And the person prays hard to God, asking God, oh God, please help me. Oh God, show yourself to me. Then Ramana Maharishi says God answers the prayer, and God appears before the person in the form of a guru. So the guru is a divine answer to a prayer of an aspirant, to a sincere prayer of an aspirant. So for many, many reincarnations, we go to so many things, but then when the mind starts to get purified, we start to have questions. We are searching for answers. And then at a certain point we start to pray, "Oh God, show yourself. Oh God, come to me." Like this. Then the question is answered. God appears in the form of the Guru. Then Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, people say that God does not exist because we cannot perceive God with our senses and so on. But when God does show up, people say this cannot be God because we perceive Him with our senses. You see? They say God does not exist. Why? Cannot be perceived. But if God does show up, you say that's not possible. So Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, even when I show up with form, even then they don't believe in my existence. So either way, they don't believe. But there are people that do not believe in God, but they do believe in their Guru. So God can appear in the form of the Guru. God can appear in a divine form, like Lord Krishna appeared to Arjuna. And of course, God can reveal itself as our own self. So the self, God, and the Guru, these are not three different things. Okay? But the great Ramana Maharshi said that for many people, God answers their prayer and appears in the form of a Guru. And he says the Guru is the most gracious because he shows the aspirant the way that he has to take in order to realize the self. So there are many compassionate beings in this world, but the most compassionate being is the one that shows us how to achieve spiritual liberation. Therefore we say the most compassionate is the Guru. And how do we know that this is our Guru? This is a mystery. It's a mystery of faith. When I met Swamiji first time, I didn't know that he's my Guru. No idea. And then at a certain point I knew. It just happened here in this ashram. Now if I think logically, on its face it doesn't make any sense. If I think deeper, it makes all the sense in the world. Therefore we say think deeper. In other scriptures it is says that when the Shishya is a disciple, is ready, the Guru will be at his front door or at her front door. What is the meaning of being ready? We heard, impurity of the heart needs to be purified. Some level of burning desire for spiritual liberation should be there. In fact, we need to be desperate. There should be a sense of urgency that I cannot wait any longer. Then the Guru will show. We need to have a very strong desire to meet our Guru before our Guru will show up. Also, I think, practically speaking, we cannot just be lazy. If a person searches for a teacher, he needs to. Traditionally, people were moving around, meeting Mahatmas. Then there would be someone that they would remember. They will go back to that person and learn with him, and that person would be their guru, like this. And sometimes it's unexpected, like my encounter with my own guru, Swami Vishnudevananda. I did not know or expect that he would be my guru, but he definitely was. So it's like this. And that was the last question. So thank you for listening with great patience. Om Tat Sat.